Is your credit card just for shopping? What if you could buy a home? Let's explore this.
Hey everybody, we're back here with Ted Thomas, the Tax Lien Certificate and Tax Deed Authority. And today, Ted's going to tell us how it's possible to actually buy a house with a credit card. So Ted, I got to say, I've never heard of somebody buying a house with a credit card. Can you explain, how is this possible?
Well, I never heard of it either until one of my students taught me about it. It was kind of surprising, but the world changes in the tax lien certificate business all the time. So I learned it from one of my successful students that was actually doing it. Now, using a credit card, Bill was purchasing dozens of real estate properties, all in the state of Michigan. I'm talking about dozens of properties just using a credit card. So that was pretty darn amazing. So he discovered this system by doing property research, not only at the county records, but at the treasurer's office. He found out that you could actually go there and buy a property, and you only had to do it with a credit card. Now, before that, you had to bring checks with them, or you had to send bank drafts and whatever. So this changed the whole ballgame for him. He bought over 60 properties over a 6-year period. So he discovered he could buy with a credit card, and then that gave him the idea that he could then sell the same way. He could sell, and he could be the banker and sell with an installment sale. We'll try to talk about that later on, too, if we have time.
Well, Ted, are there specific states that will allow you to buy a tax deed with a credit card, or do all states let you do this?
Well, I can tell you, everybody wishes all states would do it because there's a lot of people who would like to use a credit card. All right, so I didn't know about this, so I started investigating, but there's only 3 states currently that you can buy with a credit card. So let's do those right now. Michigan does that. They have about 67 counties there. New York does that, and Arkansas does that. So each one of those states will allow you to buy using a credit card. But savvy investors can figure out very quickly, if you could buy a tax defaulted property with this value, and you could buy it low just using a credit card, now you've got no money out of your pocket, and you still have that great margin where you're going to be able to make some small profits, in some cases, some large profits. All right, so credit cards make a huge difference. Now, I don't know how you're going to get zero interest credit cards, but I can tell you how you can find out real quickly. You can go online, which is what I did. Just go online, and there's all kinds of people offering credit cards with zero interest rates. How about that? Now look, this is a little complicated to start with, but what we're doing is we're slowly unraveling this so that you can figure out, if you do your due diligence ahead of time, county treasurer, find out about the credit cards. All this is part of the buying process so that you can make money in tax defaulted property.
So what are the advantages of using a credit card to purchase a property at a tax deed auction?
Well, most people already figured that one out. The biggest advantage is you don't have to take any money out of your pocket. So if you can have a credit card with some reasonable limits on it, you can buy the property. In other words, you just give them your credit card, and that completely pays for the property. So think about what I just said. No money out of your pocket, and you're buying properties down here at a very low price, which is the tax defaulted auction price, okay? All right, so number one, you don't have to pay any lender fees from borrowing. You get 100% financing. And what I tell some people, if you have the ability to borrow on your property and use that money, that's called a HELOC. A lot of people like to call it a home equity loan. Just keep that in reserve, because that's one of the real positives here. You got a credit card to do all this in. All right, now, there's some negatives. People are going to say, what's the pros, what's the cons? So what's the cons? You're going to ultimately have to pay interest on that credit card. But a lot of credit cards start with 0, then after 1 year, they'll go to 10 to 12% interest. You can check all that out. Your credit score is going to be affected. So if you have good credit and you start buying with a credit card, you're going to run up your credit fast. So expect your scores are going to start to change and go down. So your credit score will be dramatically changed. But I'm telling you, those 3 states that we talked about, Michigan, Arkansas, and New York, they all sell properties. You can use your credit card.
Well, how can you find out if the state that you're interested in buying a property in accepts credit cards as payment, Ted?
Well, I can tell you there's only 3 states that do it, but you can check. And the way you would check to find out if your state, or any county for that matter, so we really don't buy from the state. The state has counties, and within the state, those counties individually have their own rules. So you could go to the county where you want to purchase. When you got there, then you could research the treasurer. The treasurer is the one that does the auction sale, but you can research that whole site and find out if they're going to do that. So I don't make the rules. The legislature of the state makes the rules. They push the rules down to the board of supervisors, and the people that work for the supervisor would be the tax collector and the treasurer. So they're going to be the ones that enforce the rules. So that's where you want to go to do the checking with the actual treasurer. They'll tell you in all 3,000 counties, they'll tell you all the answers. Now, what kind of properties can you buy? I bought 2 properties online using a credit card. You can do the same thing.
Well, there are other success stories of people who have successfully purchased a house using this credit card method. And what can we learn from those stories, Ted?
Well, what you can learn, first of all, is this works, and that's sort of important. So the strategies that we talk about here and the techniques, this is stuff that we've perfected, we've practiced, and we've proven to work. So I'll give you a couple of examples of properties that I bought at tax defaulted auction, okay? All right, now the reason this works is we test it before we'd ever tell you about it on a YouTube video. So in New York, I found an auction with some bread and butter properties. By that I mean, these weren't big fancy $300,000, $500,000 deals. These are properties that had values in $100,000 range according to the tax assessor. So I bought a mountain cabin. It was about halfway up a mountain, okay? Had lots of bedrooms for skiers because it was in a ski area, okay? And that property had a tax assessed value $144,000. Yet I was able to buy it using a credit card for $44,000. Now, you already know my system is this. I like to buy it low at the auction. Then I like to sell it low so I can do it quickly and make a small profit. So I'm shooting for $25,000 to $50,000 profit. All right, so this property is worth $144,000 according to the tax assessor. I bought it for $44,000. Folks, I sold it for $71,000 and made myself a nice profit on it. Okay, now the trick to the whole thing was I understand marketing, and you should too. So I used Craigslist, I used eBay, I used Facebook Marketplace, I used a multiple listing. I put signs all over the place. I used Trulia, Zulia. You're getting the idea. I let the whole world know that property was for sale. Less than 60 days, might have been 90 days, I don't remember exactly. I sold that property and made myself $27,000, and I had no money out of my pocket. It was all done with a credit card. So when the check came in, I just paid off all the bill on the credit card, and I had $27,000 less. Now, because I had that credit card, I was able to go to other properties at the same auction. So that same auction, I was able to buy another property, had a value of $105,000. I'm using a credit card. I paid $35,000. So same system again. Okay, I find out the assessed value. I buy it low, buy low. I bought it for $35,000. Okay, I sold that property for $77,000. Folks, you can do the same thing. All you have to do is follow a step-by-step process.
Hey, if you're watching this video, you're sort of interested in learning more about this buying a house with a credit card thing, you might have a question for Ted. Just leave your question in the comment section below. Ted or a member of his team will see it and you will get an answer. And while you're down there, like this video and maybe even subscribe to Ted's channel. Hey, Ted, as always, I know you have a way that people can find out where auctions are happening and when they're happening. Why don't you tell them about it?
Sure, I'm happy to tell them about it. And I should mention, folks, if you want money, you got to ask people for it. So ask people for it, borrow the money, you can do this, or ask and get one of those credit cards we talked about. Right below me, you can go and now you have what I call an auction calendar. And what you can do is you can use your cursor and you can move your cursor and go state to state. When you come to a white circle and stop, it'll tell you how many auctions are in that state. And then you can go into those auctions and find details. What's the value of the property? What's the minimum bid? It's all below me, right below me.